First, I want to know why they're here. Usually, almost always, it's because of roller coaster blood sugars. But for many who take insulin, it's principally because they're getting a lot of hypoglycemia. And on the high carbo diet, you'd think they'd get less, but because they're forced to take so much insulin, they can't control the results and they get a lot of hypoglycemia. So that's the number 2 reason people come here. Some come here mostly because they're interested in weight loss. So I find that out up front. Then, since most of them are concerned about blood sugar, I tell them that we can essentially promise them normal blood sugars, which doctors shouldn't be doing. They shouldn't be sticking their necks out, provided we don't have one of the following problems. Inability to stick to the diet, an infection, usually in the mouth, in the teeth, gastroparesis, and the gastroparesis is only a problem if they're taking insulin, or any other form of digestive problem if they're taking insulin. And if people don't have those problems and can follow the diet, we get beautiful results. So after I've told them that, I say, now we take a history. And the history is 2 parts to it. It has the strictly diabetes-related history and weight-related history. And then I use my history form, which has about 100 questions on it. And wherever they've circled yes, I ask them questions about it. And the older patients may have 3 hours worth of history. And along the way, while I'm taking a history, if there's an intervention that I can make that would help them, I'll prescribe that intervention. Then we start training. Now the training is lengthy, and I'll say, look, one of us is going to get bored sooner or later. So whoever gets bored first, pipe up, and we'll switch to the physical exam. I try very hard to get the patient on our meal plan by the next day and on a new medication regimen by the next day, so that by the 3rd day I have a fast picture of, is this working out? How well is it working? Do I have to change the medication somewhat? Especially true if they're taking insulin. So what I do on the 1st day is try very hard to teach them everything they have to know about the background of the diet and meal plan, so they'll understand it when we negotiate it. And I'll try very hard to negotiate the meal plan at the end of the 1st day. And if I can't, we'll do it at the beginning of the 2nd day. Now, I'm going to get an A1C,
okay,
and we're going to do an RR study. The reason for the RR study is in talking about both insulin and food, that plays a role. But you're used to it.
yeah.
Okay. Now you're going to find that on the new meter, her blood sugars are higher.
Oh,
And it's more accurate.
okay.
Somewhere along the line, I will do an RR study. If it's a type 1 long-standing diabetes, I'll do the RR study before we work on the meal plan. Or if I have any other reason to suspect that the RR study will be abnormal. And that's because if they have gastroparesis based on the RR study, they might have to have a liquid dinner, for example, and ground vegetables at their meals instead of solid vegetables, and maybe even their meats might have to be ground or chopped meat or something like that. So the meal plan depends on their RR study. We're going to go inside and do an RR study. You may or may not be interested in getting another one. Most type 2s don't have that problem, so I may not worry about it, but with the type 1s we certainly do. The electrocardiogram has a little peak called QRS. The R is the top of the mountain. The distance between two peaks is the RR interval, and that's supposed to vary by a considerable amount in a normal person. With diabetics, as I showed you, you may get zero variation, and that means paralysis of the vagus nerve and a lot of problems. There are so many things that you find that you can treat. One of my very first patients, I found an ulcer on the bottom of his foot. It's good I looked at the bottom of the feet. And I told him about it, and he said, oh, that's where the smell's coming from. So I had to, immediately treat that. I do find retinopathy. I remember I had a lady come in from Montana, and out there the retinologist had missed the fact that she had severe macular edema. And in those days, I didn't know that by normalizing blood sugars we could reverse the macular edema. And she had to have photocoagulation, laser treatments. And her edema went away immediately. But so I'll always look at the eyes and frequently pick up problems that need dealing with. So another reason for looking at these things is certain things get better. And many patients come in thinking that they can get along forever without any diabetic complications. And you then look at the end of the visit that they have 30 diabetic complications, all mild. They realize that they better start doing something about it. And then down the road, we can show them that many of these complications reverse. For example, the double vision. Patient typically may come in with double vision in all 9 directions of gaze that I test. And I tell them, look, you have normal blood sugars. In 2 years, it'll be down to 7 directions or 5 directions. And another 2 years down to 2 directions and so on. And sure enough, they come back and they see that it gets better. My third most important test outside of blood sugar, hemoglobin, A1C, next is the RR study. And I gradually picked up important tests here and there. Anything that can be reversed by blood sugar control I wanted, or anything that could be serious enough that it would have to be treated.